All right, well, hi there, everybody. Welcome to League Park in St. Louis, where we have the Pirates, who started off very slow 0-2, facing the St. Louis Cardinals, who are 2-0. And a little bit of a surprising start here for the Cardinals, and especially surprising for the Pirates. I know that they're missing Honus Wagner, who, as you know from reading the blog, is out currently because he's in a contract dispute. The first batter up here is Beals Becker for the Pirates, who rolls a 32. 32 is a 26, and there's a little ground ball to Charles at second base, who throws him out, and there's one away. And here comes Fred Clark. Fred Clark now up. The rolls a 52 for a 27. That's a little ground ball over to third base to Byrne over there, who will throw him out for the second out. And up comes Tommy Leach. Pittsburgh without Honus Wagner is kind of got his wings clipped a little bit here. There's a 23 is the roll, and that's a fly ball over to right field where Murray will take it, and that's 1-2-3 go the Pirates, and they're still having a hard time hitting. And here come the Cardinals. The interesting thing is that in real life, the Pirates actually went 3-0 without Honus Wagner these first three games of the season. 41 is the roll. Albert Shaw gets a ground ball over to shortstop. It's a 28 over to Charlie Starr, who is a new star of our blog and of the channel. And that's the first out. Chappie Charles now. That is Charlie Starr, by the way, who is playing for Honus Wagner. There's a little ground ball from Charles over to second. And this time it will be Abaticio who grabs it, throws him out, and there's two away. And here's Red Murray. And there's another one for Charlie Starr. It's a 41 that results in a 28, and there's another ground ball, and it's been pretty quiet so far here. And we're at the top of the second inning. Pirates coming back up. First batter up is Ed Abaticio, and he rolls a 14, which is a 43. Now, check this out. This is brand new. This is part of the new update for NP3, in which that error number from time to time can be randomized, and it happens automatically. And so here, this 19 turns into a 17, which means that it's a potential error on the right fielder, and we'll see what happens. It all depends upon this dice roll, which is a 55, and so the error goes away. It ends up being a fly ball over to Delahanty and left, and there's one away. Charlie Starr now. If you watched our last video, you'll know I talked a little bit about that new change, the new innovation, and what I thought of it, and so far it works pretty well. Charlie Starr, who's not exactly the strongest hitter in the world, rolls a 16. That's a 26, ground ball over to second base, and Charles has it, throws him out. And two gone here in the top of the second inning. Next one up is Harry Swasina, who rolls a 44. That's an 8, but against a B pitcher, doesn't do much. A little pop fly over to Byrne at third base, and 1-2-3 go the Pirates again. And this one's moving along quite quickly, isn't it? Ed Konecki is up. Rolls a 46, which is 29. That is a ground ball back to Nick Maddox, who throws him out at first over to Swasina, and that is the first out. Joe Delahanty's up now. 65 is what he rolls. A little bit of error number randomization for you. We'll see if it's an error or not. We end up rolling a 53. That means that 65 stays at 35. That's a little foul out to the third baseman, Leach, and that will be the second out. The 65-35, by the way, is one of those results that will mark this as being a official APBA style card. In addition to that, you always have 52-27, 12-25. And there are a couple of other things here that you'll notice over time as we play that come up over and over and over and over again. 22 is where Bobby Byrne rolls. That's an 8 against the B pitcher that ends up being a ground ball to the shortstop, and that is taken in by our good friend Charlie Starr, and he throws him out at first, and we go to the top of the third inning. Not only no score, no base runners in this game. Chief Wilson starts it, rolls a 51. The result is a 9, and there's your first base hit of the ball game. Owen Wilson gets the base hit. Now, that's the same Owen Wilson who's of fame for having the triple record. The all-time record for triples was set in, I think, 1911, 1912, somewhere around there. That's the same guy who just got that base hit. Up now, though, we have to worry a little bit more about George Gibson, the catcher, who's not much of a hitter, and we're going to bunt with him and see what we do. We roll a 53, which is an 18, and that is a error on the pitcher on Beebe. And George Gibson winds up on first base, and there are runners on first and second now for the Pirates with nobody out. And this is potentially a tense moment of this ball game. We'll see what Nick Maddox can do here. Nick Maddox, fairly good hitter in his right, as you can see from the play results here, but with a 0-0 game where hits have been hard to come by, and for the Pirates who are 0-2, they're just going to bum with him. They're not going to take any chances. But he rolls a 52, and that's that dreaded 27, not your favorite play result number. And Nick Maddox, unfortunately, strikes out. That brings up Beals Becker, and I've got to ask myself what in the world I was thinking when I decided to have Becker start here hitting leadoff. We may need to go through and sort of change this lineup around a little bit. I may have done a fairly poor job of setting this one up, but that's all part of the fun. Becker rolls a 66, which is a 0, and on we go to the double columns, and the next roll is a 52. That's going to be an 11. So Becker, again, despite this S rating, which is slow, ends up driving in a run, sending the other runner to third base, and then when Clark comes up, Becker winds up stealing second base. As I mentioned before, the F fast and S slow ratings are really more run index ratings than they are ratings of how slow or fast a runner is. Anyway, there's a long, not necessarily so long, but a somewhat lengthy explanation behind that that we can get into in a different time, perhaps in a blog post in the future. As for right now, we have runners in second and third for the Pirates, only one out, and Fred Clark is up, and this is where the batting order can do some damage. Clark rolls a 54. It's a 45. Ends up being a fly ball over to Murray and right. He grabs it, and one runner scores from third base. Becker holds at second, and there are two away. 2-0 Pirates, and here comes Tommy Leach. Leach rolls a 63 for a 31. Fly ball out to Shaw in center field, and he takes that one in easily. And the score now is Pirates 2, Cardinals 0. We go to the bottom of the third inning. And up first is Patsy O'Rourke, and he rolls that wonderful 65, and he gets the foul out to the third baseman. This time it goes over to Tommy Leach, and that's the first out. Up comes Bill Ludwig, the catcher, rolls a 62 for a 12, and we go fishing for the little E again. And the roll is a 22, which is within the little E error range. And that winds up changing to a 22 play result from originally the 18, which means that it is an error on the pitcher. That's an error on Nick Maddox, and the Cardinals now have their first base runner of the game. So it's interesting to see exactly how that's played out, and we've had that play out twice now, and it is actually a pretty simple system that's not too bad. Fred Beebe now comes up, and of course we're going to bunt with Mr. 125 on-base percentage. And, of course, he rolls the 66, which means that we're going to waste one of his double column rolls. And that's the way that it goes. He ends up getting an 8, which isn't a great double column roll anyway. Would have been a single normally. Instead, he bunts the ball over to Maddox, who throws over to first base, over to APBA covering, and they're able to make the putout. Ludwig goes up to second base, albeit with 2 outs. And here's Albert Shaw again. And Shaw rolls a 54 for a 45. And we have another one of those little E number checks. 52 is what we get, which means it's not within that range. It goes back to the original 45, which is a fly ball to Wilson in right field, and that ends the inning. We go to the top of the fourth inning now, and it is still Pirates 2, Cardinals 0. First batter up is Ed Abaticio, and we roll a 46. It's a fly ball to left field. Taken in there by Delahanty. That's one away. Here comes Charlie Starr, our favorite. Starr this time up rolls a 12 for a 24. Another one of these little E checks. Lots of little E's when you're playing with 19 away because there's lots of errors. 51 is the next roll, however, and it ends up being a ground ball over to shortstop. O'Rourke's got it, and he throws over to first for the second out. Here comes Terry Swasina. 52 is the roll for 27. Some of these, as I've said before, kind of become automatic after a while. Ground ball over to Byrne, a third, and he throws him out, and we go to the bottom of the fourth inning. Cardinals coming up still without a hit in this ballgame, and Chappie Charles rolls a 12 for a 25. And we'll see if we have an error or not. It's a 24. That's close to that error range, but not quite close enough. And we end up with a ground out, 4-3. Over to Abaticio, throws him out. There's one away. Our next batter up is Red Murray, rolls a 51, but that winds up being an 8, and that means it's off to Charlie Starr, who throws him out. Told you this Starr is a pretty good kid, huh? Next one up is Kanechi, who rolls. It's a 63. 63 turns into a 31, which is just a simple fly out to Becker, and that ends the bottom of the fourth. Still no hits for the Cardinals. Pirates up now, top of the fifth inning. 16 is a roll for Chief Wilson, for Owen Wilson. Ground ball over to, it's a 28, which is a ground ball over to O'Rourke, is short for the first out. I try to slow myself down a little bit here so that I remember to say everything. George Gibson up next. He rolls a 32 for a 26. That's a ground ball over to Charles, the second baseman, 2 away just like that, and up comes Nick Maddox. Nick Maddox rolls a 66, and that gets him a 2, which is a triple to left center. So Maddox, kind of a little better hitting pitcher. This is one of those old traditions that goes back through APBA history and through the history of national pastime itself, where after, I guess I shouldn't say the history of national pastime, after the advent of double columns, which we'll get to a little bit later in the blog, in like 57 or so, players who would still have only single column batting cards were usually either players who were somewhat good hitters, or were players who were really good hitters, or sometimes were players who were just absolutely awful hitters. In this case, Maddox, with all of these, you see 6, 8, 7, 8, 9, 7, 9, blah, 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 is a pretty good hitter. And he showed it there with that triple with 2 outs, and that brings a Beals-Becker again. Beals-Becker instead of Maddox is a pretty poor hitter. We probably should trade their places in the batting order. Of course, as I say this, and this is the old YouTube tradition for me, Becker rolls a 22, gets a 7, gets a base hit, drives in the run, and it's 3-0 Pirates, as if they're trying to spite me. Here comes Fred Clark now. Fred Clark with Becker on first base, rolls a 13. That is a base on ball. So you see Fred Beebe here with this little W. The W stands for wild, and that means that he is unable to prevent the walk. And in fact, there will be times where he will give up more walks. That is only the first walk given up by Beebe so far today, though. So he's pitched pretty well today. Tommy Leach, next batter up, rolls the 23. 23 is a 32, which is a fly ball out to Murray. He takes it in for the out, and that is the third out of the inning. Pirates do score 1. 3-0 Pirates as we go to the bottom of the 5th inning, and first man up is Joe Delahanty, rolls a 62. 62 is a 12, which here is a ground out to Kenichi at first. There was a little E there, but it didn't come into play, interestingly enough. Next up is Bobby Byrne, who rolls a 41 for a 28. That means there's a ground ball back to Charlie Starr, our favorite, and he throws him out. Next up is Patsy O'Rourke now with 2 outs here in the bottom of the 5th inning, and he rolls a 55. I was about to say it's going to be the first base hit of the ball game, but he's got an 8 there, not a 7 or a 9, and that's another ground ball out to Charlie Starr once again, and he throws him out, and we go to the top of the 6th. Ed Abbaticchio comes up for Pittsburgh. Very quiet for the Cardinals here today. Abbaticchio rolls a 21 for a 32. It's a fly ball out to right field. Murray's got it, and that's the first out. Up comes Charlie Starr, our favorite. Charlie Starr gets a 62 for a 12. It's a little ground ball over to Kenichi at first. 2 away. Here's Terry Swasina now. Rolls a 41 for a 28. That's a ground ball over to O'Rourke at short, who throws him out. And we go to the bottom of the 6th inning just like that. Told you these old games are fast. Bill Ludwig now rolls a 21 for a 30. It's a fly ball rather out to Clark in left field for the first out. And up comes the pitcher, Fred Beebe. 1 out here, bottom of the 6th inning. It's only 3-0 Pirates. So the Cardinals can get some base runners. They could come back in this one. And Beebe rolls a 15 for a 9, and there is the first base hit of the ball game for the Cardinals. How about that? And it takes the pitcher finally to get the first hit of the game. Not a great sign of things to come. Fred Beebe able to stroke that hit over short, right over the head of Charlie Starr. And now the Cardinals do have a runner on first base with only 1 out here in the bottom of the 6th inning. I'm slowing down a little bit, trying to think of what I would do. We're not going to hit and run with Beebe on first. We'll probably just go ahead and swing away and hope that Shaw doesn't hit into a double play number. So we roll a 46, which is the 27, which on the APBA boards would be a double play number. The way that these are, the Skeetersoft NPIII boards, the so-called fan boards, are made, it's not quite as drastic against normal batters. If we were an S batter, though, if the batter had an S, that is, it would be a double play. Instead, it ends up being a little force out, little ground ball over to third base where Leach is, and he flips it over to Charlie Starr not to Starr, flips it over to Abbaticchio to get the pitcher Beebe out. Shaw ends up on first base after the fielder's choice, and there are 2 away, and here comes Chappie Charles. I'll tell you, part of the problem is that Chappie Charles is not a good hitting chap. Charles rolls a 65 for a 35, fouls that one up and back. Gibson's got it, and that does it for the bottom of the 6th inning. No runs for the Cardinals, only the 1 hit, their first hit of the ball game. And into the top of the 7th we go, and here is Owen Wilson again, rolls a 56 for a 34, and we have to check once again for potential error rating, and we're going to have to re-roll that because the die got stuck a little bit. Here we go, it's a 64. 64 is not within the range, and that means it's a pop fly up to Charlie Starr, or not Charlie Starr, apologies, to Who is it? It's to O'Rourke for the first out. And there's one out here in the top of the 7th inning, and up comes George Gibson, rolls a 54. 54 again means we got to do a little bit of little air checking. 55 is our roll, and he gets a fly ball out to right field to Wilson, and that is out number 2. And Nick Maddox, the pitcher, up, throwing a one-hitter so far, and he rolls a 15 for an 8. Unfortunately, though, the pitcher, Beebe, is still pitching well, so it ends up being a ground ball over to O'Rourke for the out, and we go to the bottom of the 7th inning. Red Murray will lead it off for St. Louis. Fred Murray rolls a 32 for 26. It's a ground ball over to Apaticio, throws him on out, and here comes Ed Kenichi, second man up. Rolls a 36 for 33. Means we're going to have to look for once again for a little E, and the roll is a 62. Ends up being a pop fly up to Apaticio again for the second out. A lot of rolls, as you can see, for these little E's, especially since we're playing with 1908. A lot of these dead ball era seasons will do that. The difference, as you can see, is that not all of those rolls wind up being errors, or we'd be here for a long time. Delahanty, meanwhile, as I speak of errors, rolls a 53, which is a 17. The 53 is the classic air number, and that ends up being ends up actually changing. That winds up being a line drive over to Leach at third base, who makes the grab. Leach has a 4, which is a fairly good rating at third base. I was about to do this, and I noticed an interesting thing here. If you put your mouse over the player in the lineup, it'll tell you what he did. So, for example, Leach hit a fly ball to right, fly ball to center, another fly ball to right. Interesting, isn't it? Here comes Beals Becker now, top of the 8th inning. You learn something new every day, don't you? Rolls a 43 for 29. It's a little ground ball back to Beebe, the pitcher, and he throws him out. And there's one away. Here's Fred Clark now. Fred Clark rolls a 35 as the dice danced around a little bit. And look, the unusual play number, which I mentioned last time, 40, ended up changing to a 38 as it was randomized. And this is where that W comes into play, because Fred Beebe doesn't just throw a ball, he throws a base on balls. Clark now on first base is the runner for the Pirates. Only the second base on balls given up by Beebe, who's pitching pretty well, all things considered. Leach rolls a 16, which gives us a result of 26. That's a ground ball over to the second baseman, Charles, who flips over to O'Rourke. They try for the double play, unable to beat out, that is, Tommy Leach is able to beat out the double play. They're unable to get him at first because he's too fast for them. Up comes Ed Apaticio. He rolls a 21 for 32. It's a fly ball out to Murray in right field, and the chance for Pittsburgh is wasted, and we go to the bottom of the 8th inning. And the dishes are done washing. Don't know if you can hear that or not. Bobby Byrne starts off, and that's a 26, results a 27. That is a ground ball over to Leach at third base, who throws him out. There's one away. Patsy O'Rourke now rolls a 45 for a 14. And Nick Maddox doesn't have anything to get rid of those pesky walks, and so he takes first base with a walk, and that is the first walk given up by Nick Maddox in this game. Bill Ludwig now rolls a 55, and that's a 9, and that turns into a ground ball to Leach, and he throws the first to get Ludwig out. 2 away now as O'Rourke moves up to second, and that's as good as a bunt. It's always hard in this situation, I should note, to know whether you should bunt or whether you should just swing away. I just swung away because we're down by 3. We might as well swing away in this situation, as a bunt is not necessarily going to give you anything other than an out, and that worked as well as a bunt anyway. Beebe rolls a 22 for an 8, and that winds up being a single over second base, and around comes comes O'Rourke, who unfortunately is slow, and so as Becker picks up the ball in center field and throws over to Gibson, they are able to get O'Rourke at the plate, and that is the end of that rally for St. Louis. No runs on the one walk and the one hit as well, and that's only the second hit of the ball game for St. Louis, and both of those hits belong to the pitcher, and this is one of the more remarkable games I've played. Charlie Starr now comes up, rolls a 64, and ends up being a 22, which stays the same. That's a little bouncer over to Beebe, who makes an error on it, trying to throw him out. Second error of the ball game for the Cardinals. Starr now on first base, and here comes Harry Swasina. We're not going to do a hit and run or anything like that. We're not going to try to rub in the score. Swasina ends up rolling a 27. It turns into double play. Not Leach. Wrong team. Byrne grabs it, throws over to Charles, and then Charles throws over to first base to Kenichi, and that doubles up the Pirates, and there are now 2 away. That 27 turned into a double play, of course, because Swasina is not exactly a fast runner. Up comes Chief Wilson now, and he rolls a 24, and the 24 result is a 13. It is a strikeout for Chief Wilson, and up come the Cardinals here in the bottom of the 9th inning. And this game's a little bit tense, isn't it? 3-0 is not an insurmountable lead, although none of the Cardinals have had a hit, save Beebe, who has the pitcher, who has the 2 singles in this game. Amazing how bad this offense has been today. First man up is Albert Shaw, who rolls a 34 for a 44, and we're going to check and see if there is an error, and the roll is a 25, so no error. Winds up being a fly ball out to Becker in center field, 1 away. Chappie Charles now, the next man up, and he rolls a 52 for a 27, which is a ground ball over to Leach, who throws him out, 2 away, and up now, and the last chance for the Cardinals is Red Murray. He rolls a 41 for 28, and that's a ground ball over to none other than our favorite Charlie Starr at shortstop, who throws him out, and that is the end of the ball game. And there you have it. The Pittsburgh Pirates win their first game of the season here in 1908, defeating the St. Louis Cardinals 3-0. And couldn't have picked a better time to do it. Honus Wagner will be back for games on the 17th. And there you have it. I sure hope that you've enjoyed this. As always, let me know what you think. If you liked it, let me know. If you didn't like it, you can let me know that as well. We can see if we can modify things a little bit for you. And I will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.